At that time, I remember thinking health should be simple. You know,
Mm.
you aren't well, you go to the doctor, they give you medicine, you get better, and simple. But as we know, it's not always like that. So that began this journey of exploration and discovery, and sometimes going against what was acceptable at that time.
Today's guest is Jennell Cook, creator of the Simple Health Test Method. After more than 40 years in wellness, Jennell noticed that smart people, good products, and thoughtful recommendations still didn't always produce consistent results. She now helps practitioners, product sellers, and everyday people identify where to start, what support progress, and what may be interfering, so they can make more confident decisions and create more predictable outcomes. Welcome, Jennell.
Thank you very much, Anita.
I'm
Thank you.
so excited to learn more about this because it's so true. We just trust the practitioners, don't we? And we're in their hands sometimes. And I'm very much at the idea now that you have to know your own body.
You absolutely have to know your own body. It's so important. There's no one size fits all, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, with that said, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
Well, Anita, courage for me wasn't really found in a singular moment, but repeatedly in the choices I made, choosing the unknown over the safer options. For instance, I walked away from a successful career in finance. I rebuilt my life as a single mom. Divorce was very hard. And standing up for what I knew, even when it was easier to sit down. So it was, I think, in the many moments that life handed me.
Isn't that for everyone? Yeah, there's that you can't always pick one, but you can roundabout try and get a common denominator.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's what keeps us growing and evolving and just makes us stronger with every obstacle we encounter, every situation we face. Yeah.
For those who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do today?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. So I've been in wellness for 42 years now, and it started with my mom's health journey. I was just a teenager and she suffered from multiple health issues. Some were chronic, and it was very fearful for me because I thought, my gosh, like I don't want to lose my mom. And at that time, I remember thinking health should be simple. You know,
Mm.
you aren't well, you go to the doctor, they give you medicine, you get better, and simple. But as we know, it's not always like that. So that began this journey of exploration and discovery, and sometimes going against what was acceptable at that time. So it was a challenging journey, and it was one that through that, we discovered there are other ways. There's not just one way to do something. And my mom's recovery allowed us to open up a health food store and a wellness clinic where we were able to help hundreds and thousands of other people, including their pets. And when COVID hit and businesses were shut down, I thought this was a time for me to just sort of take a step back, and I wrote a book. That was another challenge. That was a very, very difficult thing to do. And looking back, I'm glad I did, because this book outlines the steps of this simple health test method that have helped so many people. I shared a bit about my story. And then off the back of that book, I built an online program where I help people today learn the method that brought us success and let me keep my mom.
That's so inspiring because that's in real time. You want to do something for your mum. Like
Yeah.
you said, keeping like health should be simple, and it's not. So I can understand absolutely. You would want to do anything for your parents.
Yes, and that I did.
Yeah.
Yes, and it helped me navigate my own health challenges. As a single mom, I remember I woke up one morning and it felt like my body just quit me. And what it was my thyroid crashed. And
Mm.
it was scary. And if I didn't have these skills, if I didn't have at least a little bit of knowledge that there was something else I could do at that time, I don't know what would have come of that otherwise. So I was able to navigate through that using this method, and there's just been so many times, and I'm super grateful for that.
So, what inspired you to create a simple health test method after decades in the wellness field? I know you've just spoke about your mum's health and your
Yeah.
thyroid. So, was it a combination? Do tell us, Jennell.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, Anita. So while it started with my mom, of course, but the more that I experienced the method, the more that I realized what it was able to do, the more that it was helping so many people, I realized, wow, like everybody should be doing this. Like it doesn't matter if you're a single parent like I was at home, or a pet parent, it's a way to help our pets. There's always challenges that are going to come up as our bodies change, as we age, we need more resources. And I think in today's world, despite the advancements in technology and science, like people are really struggling, right? We're not really understanding specifically where do we start for that body. And I think this is a really necessary part that fills in the gap for many people. And I just got very excited to share and let people realize that there is more possible if we just are open to the idea and um, just move forward
Yeah.
courageously in something different.
So, was there a specific moment when you realized that good advice, good products, and good intentions don't always lead to the same results for everyone? Because let's face it, like you said earlier, we all know one does not fit everyone.
It's true. And I don't think there was a singular moment. I think there was just hundreds of moments because I had, through my practice, the ability to be in front of thousands of people. And it was the repeated idea that, oh my gosh, we're not making decisions because we don't have a way, a method, a tool, um, to help us decide, like, where do we start with that particular body? Never mind, the 10 before. It's not always that cut and dry. It's not always that textbook um, answer. We have to look at the body as an individual. I always say it's like a fingerprint. We are unique, and there is no one size fits all in my
Yes.
experience.
And it is unique. And I'm glad you gave that example of a fingerprint because we've all got our own fingerprint.
We
Yeah.
do, yes, I believe that. So as an example, if I may, there's a story that comes to mind to sort of bring home what I'm talking about, the concept of how do we actually, tap into the wisdom of the body. And I use different tools. Now, a tool could be any feedback tool, any body feedback tool, such as muscle testing, which happens to be one of my favorite, and it's what I teach, but it's not limited to that. Some people have really good guided intuition. Some people use dowsing rods or pendulums, whatever the tool is, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. But a tool with a method can really get the data that we need. So, for instance, fatigue. Fatigue is a big one in my business. There was a lot of, especially women that would come in, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I can't get through the day. Like, where do we even start? And they try all these things, and many of them, years have passed. Now, I couldn't imagine going through years of, struggling with trying to get out of bed in the morning. I lived through that with my mom, and thankfully, I didn't have to experience that myself, given what I know. And, so fatigue was a really big one. But fatigue could mean many things. Fatigue is just a symptom, isn't it? Fatigue could point to
Mm.
a candida or yeast overgrowth in the body, a thyroid that needs support, adrenals, heart, like low iron, B12. There's so many things that fatigue could point to. Yet often we just look at fatigue as, oh my gosh, what can I take to give me more energy? Right. And then that's where we get down these paths of all the wrong directions. So this one client in particular, she came in and she she was very fatigued. I mean, she could hardly walk. She was embarrassed. Her friends thought she had a brain injury because she couldn't
Mm.
follow a conversation. She was so tired. So, assessing her body using the simple health test method, we could find exactly where that was originating from. And furthermore, we could test out using the method which products would best support her, which ones would fit her body. So once we knew, in her case, to support the thyroid, there's many solutions to thyroid support. There's a
Mm-hmm.
ton of good products out there, right? But which option really fit her best? Now, I have a background in clinical nutrition and herbalism and all these different things, but you can't just lean into one solution because for her body, although my educated mind, could have made a good guess, but I
Mm-hmm.
would just be guessing. So once we tested her body, found the right fit, the things that were interfering based on her lifestyle that was contributing to the problem. Well, within a couple of weeks, she called me back and she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm out riding my bicycle again." I thought, "Your
Oh,
bicycle?" She was in her 70s and her friends noticed. And so, yeah, once you can tap into what it is that body needs, it just makes everything so much easier to get a more predictable outcome.
and that's so fantastic because that's what you want. I mean, that's beautiful to get someone back on their bike in their 70s. Why not? And I think this day and age, they always say, "Oh, you're just getting old, or you're just getting forgetful." And it's
Yeah.
played down a lot without actually thinking about it. It could be something else.
Yes, yes, and you're right, it does get played down a lot, doesn't it? Especially
Mm,
as we age, I'm gonna be 60 soon. I recognize, if I get up some days and I think, "Oh, something just doesn't feel quite right, I don't have the zip that I used to," I can test my body and say, "Oh, I'm gonna support my iron a little bit," or whatever it might be. Because when you have a method and some tools to do that, it just makes making decisions easier. Mhm.
I'm not sure if you've actually answered some of these questions, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. For
Okay,
someone hearing about the simple health test method for the
yeah.
first time, can you explain what it is and how it works?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I use
Mm,
feedback tools and I'm a fan of muscle testing. So, I use muscle testing, and for those people listening who are maybe familiar with feedback tools, where you see the somebody will hold their arm out as a practitioner and push down on the arm and get these yes no answers, or maybe you see them doing the swaying kind of technique. Other people use different types of tools, but that's my favorite.
mhm,
So these yes no answers, they're fantastic because you can say, is this, for instance, is this product good for me? And a strong response would typically mean yes, where a weakness would mean no. But with a method, you can take that so much further.
mm,
You can access the body to find where the weaknesses and imbalances are first, meaning the body's priorities. See, we don't want to start with a solution for fatigue.
yeah.
We want to start with the body and say, but where is that fatigue coming from?
Mm,
Then we can move into, okay, now what's going to support that body best? Maybe a product, maybe food, maybe herbs. There's lots of options. There's so many wonderful things out there. That's the problem sometimes. There's so many things. How do we choose what is best for that body at that time? Because even yesterday's hero could be this year's villain, right?
mm,
So the body changes, our needs change. So we need that data, that information to say, oh, okay, this is how we make a decision right now for this problem that we're facing. So that's does that answer your question?
yes. You say that health doesn't always mean compatible. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Absolutely. So compatibility just really means, going back to the example to keep it simple. Let's say, Anita, you're struggling with fatigue
Mm-hmm,
and I'm struggling with fatigue.
mm-hmm,
But the solution for you might be because your thyroid needs some support.
mm-hmm,
Maybe for me, my thyroid needs some support, but maybe for you, you require ABC supplement and I require XYZ essential oil. Maybe for you, it's coming from stress. Maybe for me, it's coming from having too much caffeine in my in my daily routine. So what's compatible for me doesn't mean it's compatible for you.
Yeah.
We are unique bodies and we have unique circumstances. Even where you live versus where I live, we are going to have different quality of foods, different available products. I run into this with my students in my program. They'll say, but Jennell, what can I use in this situation? Because these things aren't available to me. So without a method to be able to test those out, to say, oh, okay, this is what's available where I am, what's good that fits my body. Because some solutions and remedies, even if it's a home remedy, you might test it out and say, meh, that's okay. Another one might be, wow, this really gets a result. And another one might be, yeah, but this really lands the plane, it brings it home. And another one might be, no, no, no. Although this might support the thyroid, it's going to cause an upset in my gut health, or it's going to make my hair fall out. So you don't want those as options and solutions. But maybe for me, that might be the perfect remedy for me. But for you, it's going to cause more harm than good. That's compatibility.
And it's so true, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because I've seen colleagues, friends, family members that are having issues, and yeah, you really need to be able to pinpoint what it is your body needs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been my life's work. And I think that's the biggest gap I see today. Everybody is promoting a fantastic product or a treatment or whatever it might be, a home remedy. And while that may be great for some people, that's why some people say, oh, yeah, that worked. And other people say, well, that didn't do anything for me, or it made me worse. And as a practitioner, or if you sell products, that's kind of a big deal. If you don't have a way to evaluate these things first, I mean, that's some of the things that would keep me up at night as a practitioner. Oh my gosh, did I recommend the right thing? Like, what's the feedback going to be? Did I help this person? Because your whole business is based around achieving results.
Yeah. Why doesn't having more information necessarily create more clarity when it comes to our health and well-being?
Because I think today, and you might agree with this, Anita, that having a more availability to information today with the internet, it just causes more chaos. There's like hundreds and thousands of possibilities with no real way to narrow it down. Sometimes it just creates more confusion, more conflict. If you saw 10 different practitioners for fatigue, they would probably give you 10 different solutions because that's their area of expertise or something they're familiar with or something that worked for them. So it just creates more confusion and chaos. There's too many options today, um, with no real means of narrowing it down. Like how do you test it out before you
Yes,
make those decisions or recommendations? And that's what the method is all about.
brilliant. So, what is the biggest mistake practitioners make before recommending products or protocols?
Yeah, that's a challenging one because we can sometimes make a lot of different assumptions based on what we think worked best. I know sometimes for myself, as a very seasoned practitioner over the years, I would say, oh, yeah, I know what this is. And maybe sometimes we do. So we just jump to that solution or that remedy quickly because it's like, oh, yeah, this is familiar. This is what maybe helped in the majority of situations. But then I would find if I would just stop for a minute, test it out first, and then I would think, uh-oh, that could have been a terrible mistake because my testing showed that there was something better. That while that may have been helpful, but this was better, maybe a faster result, a quicker outcome, something that's going to last longer. I think, yeah, we just jump to remedies or solutions a little too fast sometimes.
And that's good to know. Is having that slowing down again process, isn't
Mhm.
it? Just take a moment here.
Yes, yes.
In your experience, why do some people see great results from wellness approaches while others don't?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, Anita, that You and I could use the same product
Mm,
for the same thing, and you could have incredible results. And for me, I don't know, maybe I think for a day or two, wow, this seems to be helping. And then suddenly it doesn't. And I'm right back where I started
mm,
because we didn't find out first, where do I start? What is the right fit? And then does it all play nice together? Because sometimes people today, mostly I think people today, we're not just taking one thing, one supplement, one
yeah.
product, one remedy. We do this concoction of things. I need something for this and this and this and that, right? So do all of those things play nice together, right? And we can test this out using the method. Sometimes it's just that.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the most common reasons people get stuck in their wellness journey? Because I know people that are stuck and they said, oh no, it's just me, nothing works, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think primarily, well, it's the reason I built this method. It's the reason I wrote the book because we don't have a way to evaluate for ourselves. We're kind
Mm,
of handing over that part to somebody else for them to decide what our bodies need.
mm,
But I think the reality is, in my experience, it's the body that knows best.
mm,
It's the body that's always known. And while some of these things may be helpful, the body still knows best at the end of the day. And the information is not always easily available to us. So this is what I'm doing out there, just trying to get this knowledge out to other people to say, hey, there's a way that you can figure that out for
mm,
yourself or for your clients or your customers. There's an easier way.
yeah. And that leads nicely onto my next question. How can people become more aware of what their own body is trying to tell them?
Well, I think for anybody who is into kind of feedback, body
Hmm.
feedback, I think that's a great place to start. And there's a few parts to this. So, feedback, like I said, could be muscle testing, which just happens to be my favorite, but there could be many other ways because those quick yes no answers can be very, very helpful. But having a method like the simple health test can give you even more data, especially if you're in the business of wellness and helping other people. So I think anything to do with feedback to tap into the body. Now, having said that, there is one key, I'll say, pre check that we were never taught and that most feedback users were never shown. And sometimes they get different answers. They don't trust the feedback they're getting. And I actually created a free, kind of like a mini training. It's available on my website for people who want to just kind of take that for a test drive, or if they're familiar with feedback already and say, yeah, but I don't really trust it. This is probably why, because we were never shown this one little check that we would do first.
And that's having the wisdom about your own body as well and trusting it, like you've just said.
Yes.
Mm,
And once you learn to trust that wisdom that is
mm,
inside of us, oh, it just opens up a whole new world. I was able to, as a single mom, help my kids, help my pets, and of course, turn it into a business. And for my mom, from somebody who struggled so much, just being able to have a life then of purpose
mm,
when in the beginning, it started out not really very well for her. So being able to just have more options and going through life, being able to enjoy life, experiencing life without being limited.
yes. Can you share a story that demonstrates the possibility of the simple health test method?
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories. Well, even for myself, I'll tell you a little bit more about my own kind of little crash, my body
Mhm,
crash. So even though I was fairly new, even though I had seen this already for a few years with my mom and how she was able to, through her own body's feedback, make changes and good changes and changes that would
mm,
last from the proper nutrition and not only just what the body needs that it's lacking, but things that you need to remove. So in my case, when I woke up one morning and my body just quit me and I was so scared because suddenly you're just thrown into the situation that you're not familiar with. And
Mm.
I was like, okay, just take a breath for a minute and calm down. And like, what is actually going on before I, hit the panic button? And even though I was very new to this, I was able to kind of go through my body and find where the weaknesses or the imbalance was coming from. And for me, it immediately pointed to my thyroid. And I'm doing this because this is one of the tests we would do to access the body and say, okay, this is, my
Mm.
thyroid. I thought, okay, it's my thyroid. I know this.
Mm.
So what does my thyroid need? Because that's the next step. Once we realize, okay, here's all of these possibilities, solutions, remedies. And for me, I kind of created this little recipe and I wrote about it in one of my books. And it was basically a bunch of different greens. But in the beginning,
Mhm.
I had to do a little bit of supplementation because I was so bad. So I leaned into supplements first, and then I replaced those with better food choices and eliminated the foods. In my case was, caffeine or anything that had caffeine in it. I love coffee. That was my thing. And I had a very high power, high stress corporate job at that time. I was running a finance business. And
Mhm.
so these things they were very taxing on my thyroid. And as a single mom, I mean, I didn't have time to be sick. I didn't have time to have problems, or to be dealing with this. So within a couple of days, I was able to turn that all around and feel better faster and not go down some of those paths that many of us, like my mother, get led down for many, many years. So I was super grateful for that.
And that's
Hope
what
that
a
answers the question.
transformation for yourself and through your own work you've witnessed. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And with our pets too.
Mm.
I remember I have a I have a very big passion for pets. And I remember the first puppy I got for my daughter as a single mom, and we were both so excited. And we got this puppy, and she was only a few months old, and I noticed when we were playing outside, she was kind of struggling to
Mm.
see. I thought, "What?" Like, we'd throw the ball. She was like a border collie mix, and so they're very, smart and quick. But I noticed when I would throw the ball, she wasn't really watching me. She was more listening. I thought, "Uh-oh." So I tested her, her eyesight was saying that it needed some support. I thought, "Oh my gosh, I have this puppy and she's losing her eyesight." Again, we, tested out what would be the best solutions for her in her case, and in a couple of months we were able to navigate that, and she never did lose her eyesight. So, but for a while it was very scary. Mhm.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful because this day and age, a lot of us have pets, don't we? And they're part of the family. And you do want to look after them as much as your children.
That's right, that's right. And it's hard because people don't realize that there is a way to help
Mm.
them figure these things out,
Mm.
argue that, well, it was obvious that she was losing her eyesight, of course, but then what do you do with that?
Mm.
I see so many things today on the internet, and people do try to be helpful, I believe, in the best way possible. Oh, try this, try that. And they bring all of this information forward, and then it just gets so overwhelming, right? Weeks pass, months pass. You're
Mm.
trying all these things. And sometimes you're spending, hundreds, thousands even
Mm.
in trying to find the right fit solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to taking courage to trust ourselves when there is so much conflicting evidence. What have you learnt about self trust through your work?
Well, I've learned that if we remove the panic from the situation and just quiet ourselves, now I have the luxury of having this method that I use that helps
Mhm.
me, that directs and guides me, which really does come from within, but it helps me understand what is actually in here to say, okay, this is the right next step for you. And that sort of helps me calm maybe my busy mind or a busy nervous system that's firing in all these directions because we're panicking, and just having the courage to just quiet ourselves and listen to that. Like, I got this, my body's got me, my intuition knows, my wisdom, whatever you want to call it, whether you're a spiritual person, maybe it's whatever it is for you, and just trust that. And the more you do it, the more you lean into that, the more it just, okay, I got this.
I love that.
Thank you.
How?
Well, it's like anything. It's practice, right?
Yes.
Practice. We learn through these experiences to trust ourselves, to be more courageous,
Mm-hmm.
because we come up with all of these ideas, I think initially, all the scary things. Oh my gosh, if I do this and that, and what could happen? But we have to let go of that part and just come back to here, because our body knows. We do know.
And I think you've just answered my next question, which was how do we know the difference between fear and intuition when making decisions about our health and well-being?
Yes. Well, again, for me, I have the luxury of having a method that helps reassure and guide me, but it still comes back to, we just need to quiet the busy mind, come back to the center of the heart, whatever you want to call it, your guidance, whatever it is you believe in, and quiet all the other noise and come to that place that you feel it. You feel it.
If there was one key takeaway you want every listener to walk away with today, what would that be?
When in doubt, test it out. The body knows. It just knows. We just need a way to hear it, to listen to it, and verify what we think, and trust that.
I love that.
Thank you.
Simple, short, and straight to the point.
Yes, yes. Simple health test method has 3 simple steps. Find it, fix it, feel it.
So where can the listeners find you online, your website, your book?
Absolutely. At my website, simplehealthtest.com, there is some information about what we just talked about, a little more information on what it is I do and who I am. In addition to the free training that I mentioned earlier, it's just a quick mini, 5-6 minute free training for those who have not yet experienced any sort of feedback, body feedback testing, or even those who are familiar with feedback testing and love those yes no tools and want to trust those answers easier. There's usually a pre-check that most of us were never taught. So that is also available on my website, and my book, Wellness is Your Business. Yep, it's also available on my website, on Amazon.
So listeners, all the links will be in the show notes. Do please go ahead and connect with Jennell.
I would love that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and your stories with us today. By doing so, you have impacted so many people and truly made a difference. I'd really like to acknowledge you for that, Jennell Cook.
Thank you, Anita. It was my pleasure to be here. And if we've helped one person listening today, this was definitely worth it.
Yes, can't echo that enough.
Yes, thank you so much.
So we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
To me, it's having the courage to take the path that feels right, not the path that's easiest. It's not always the path that people expect you to take. And that's, I think, part of that intuition that guides us to recognize which path we need to be on. Not the easy one. It's taking the path that you have the courage to take.